Hi students, welcome to Muckle Chapter 9 on language. Students in Anthropology 155, we've got all the way to language. This is usually the domain of linguistic anthropology, but of course everyone studies language. Biological anthropologists and archaeologists and cultural anthropologists as well. So it's actually a core area. So beginning with the definitions. Definition of language, it's a symbolic system expressing meaning through sounds or gestures. Remember, gestures can also, a language can also involve gesture, both as a support to language and as, if we're talking sign language, it's all there is, apart from expression. Speech, biology is necessary but not sufficient. So just because we have the capacity to make speech does not necessarily mean that we were making speech. Speech is also sociocultural and political. Culture and language, the third point we want to make here, has to do with culture and language and how they shape one another. For example, in German, German and Spanish are two languages that have gender for their nouns. They're gender inflected languages. And so for German, bridge is a feminine noun, and in Spanish, bridge is a masculine noun. So when somebody went and talked to Germans and talked to Spanish speakers in English, so get them out of their language and think of them translating it into English. Germans, when they would describe bridges, they were elegant, beautiful, fragile, pretty, and slender. Spanish speakers tended to say they were big, dangerous, sturdy, strong, and towering. So we can see how language sometimes ways that we're communicating that are very intuitive. We don't consciously think about it. They can still be affecting our lives. So we'll get into that at the end. Affecting our perceptions, actually. Language can affect our perceptions. That's the point that we'll get under number 3. So first, language and communication. Signs and symbols. A sign is something that stands for something else. So there are basically two kinds of signs. It's more complicated, but this is what we'll do for this one. We have indexical and symbolic. We have indexes that point directly to something. They are non-arbitrary. And then we have symbols. These are signs that have no direct relationship to the thing they signify. So if I say boom, and you say, oh, what does a boom sound like? And I say, oh, well, it sounds like boom, right? So that's an indexical sign. It's usually a pointing finger within the sign. The sign turns into like a pointing finger that directly sort of calls to mind the thing it's talking about. If you have a little kid and you say, what's that thing there? A little toddler who isn't a competent speaker of any language yet. What is that thing that runs around with the pointy the wagging tail and the pointy ears? And they'll say, oh, the woof woof. And that's indexical, right? Because what does the thing that they're referring to? They call it a woof woof. What does it sound like when it barks? It goes woof woof, right? Whereas in English, or Spanish or French have 3 different words, one in each language for that thing, and they sound nothing like one another, right? One sounds like dog, and one sounds like perro, and one sounds like chien, right? Completely different languages, completely different sounds to those words, and none of them sound like woof woof, right? So that's the difference between an index and a symbol, very briefly. Arbitrary relationships between signifier and signified is enormously important, this arbitrariness, and we may be coming back to this later on. Symbols. So human language is symbolic in ways that exceed and differ from non-human animal language. Some apes in captivity. We talk about language as being a sort of a human, a uniquely human practice. And there are aspects of language that are non-human. Um, and, definitely bees have language, and dolphins have language, and all of these things have language, but this language is limited in relationship to human language. So some apes in captivity have been taught human languages. American Sign Language was taught to Coco, a gorilla. And you can go look her up, look up Coco the gorilla using sign language, using videos of her. The problem is that the things that she said were always pretty limited in comparison to any human language on the planet that's ever been studied. All of them have displacement, deception, and productivity, at least for the purposes of this chapter. Um, so displacement, humans use symbols to signify things that are distant in time and space from the speech event. So we can talk about things happening next week. We can talk about things happening on the other side of the mountain. We can talk about things that happened 100 years ago, things that happened in Paris. Coco could never do that. Coco could never say, give me the ball next week. Coco just says, give ball now. Give ball, want ball, play ball, right? So Coco didn't really have that displacement in her speech. Deception, humans appear to lie much more readily and consciously than non-humans do. Um, that's a more sort of an appearance. There's plenty of deception going on with predators, for example, and insects. Pretending to be other insects. Some of this is cultural, and most of it is instinctual. But productivity, definitely number 3, productivity. That is key. Humans can create a nearly infinite number of unique sentences, and they can create words for things that do not exist and will never exist. So productivity is the other big one. Displacement and productivity are the big ones there. Um, um, when you write a paper for me, not you personally, but students have written papers for me, and I look at that and I say, man, that's beautiful. That looks like a professional writer wrote that. Someone who's a full-time pro, because it's just perfect. And so I'll take like, I'll select eight words in a row, um, and put them into Google, and sometimes immediately it pops up. Boom! Yes, a professional writer did write it, and it was not someone taking my class. But sometimes, and a fair amount of the time, it comes up absolutely blank. Google searched all of the writing in English that it could find by crawling the web and looking at bazillions of different series of 8 words, and it could not find your your sentence. Your sentence was completely unique, incredibly creative in ways that no human being has ever created language before. It's amazing. It's brilliant. It's the reason why I'm here. It's the reason why this university exists, is to support such creativity. You think you're here. A lot of times, students at the regionals think they're here to learn a trade or learn some skills, but actually, all universities are separated from trade schools and colleges, because what we do at universities is create knowledge, and we professional researchers and the faculty are creating knowledge for um, other academics, but students are also creating new knowledge. That's what we're here to do at the university. You are here to create something new, and you do it every time you write a unique string of 8 words and put it into a paper. It's incredible, the productivity of human beings, and it's incredible what you can do. So don't sell yourself short. This is very important stuff. Language origins, gestural, and then vocal language. This seems likely because we have limited ability to make sounds as mammals, but much more ability to make gestures. Non-human primate language. We have neurological differences between non-human apes and humans. We have mouth and throat differences. For example, the lower tongue. We have a smaller mouth. We have a lower larynx, that voice box, and we have a longer neck than apes do. So all of these things contribute to human beings being able to make sound due to our I don't know, but probably these were not adaptations that were, selecting speech. Speech is probably a unintended consequence of walking upright and the head needing to come rest directly over the spinal cord, and so that sort of messing with the sight of the tongue and the size of the mouth and all that. This increases the risk of smoking. This is choking. Sorry, this is a cost of speech because we can speak better. We also can choke on it. And then it has resulted in brain structures. So I don't know where these brain structures originally came from or why they came about, but now they are connected to spoken language, Wernicke's area, Broca's area, and Geschwind's territory. And I looked these up. Um, Wernicke's area is back over here, and Broca's area is in the front. This is, of course, Wikipedia. Um, Two parts in the cerebral cortex that are linked to speech. Broca's area. That's in the frontal lobe, linked to speech production. So there you go. And the other one was Geschwind's territory understands different qualities of language simultaneously. So the way we can comprehend an entire speech act is here. The inferior parietal lobule. Let me see if I can move this over so you can see the. There we go. There it is. Geschwind's territory, part of the parietal lobe over on the side of the head. Look at that. And the others? Oh, I guess you didn't see that. There you go. That's Broca's. And Wernicke. Wernicke and Broca. Okay, as we are looking at stuff here. Oh, goodness, it's 11 minutes. I will come back to this. Science is very important.